Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is another episode of Corrigan's Cheat Sheet. I'm your host, Dan Corrigan. And for all you avid wrestling game fans out there, I have another guest that you will love. His name is Lucas Weatherby. How are you doing, Lucas?
Yeah, I'm good, Tom, man. How are you?
Doing good. So can you give us a little bit of background about, what this game is going to be like?
Okay, so I probably started this project a few years ago. I'd probably say about 4 or 5 years ago. I started to get into programming. It's always been like an ambition of mine. I've worked in the industry, so I kind of get interested in learning and stuff. And I was playing a very popular wrestling promoter game, and I wanted to get into the save game and edit it and do a little bit of things for my own save game. That's how I kind of got into it. And then I started to think, well, maybe I want to do things differently. If I was playing this game and I wanted to do certain things, why couldn't I make it myself? So that's where the idea was kind of born, really. And I got involved with some mod makers. I helped develop a few mods, and we started knocking around some ideas, and I was building on my skills, and as that kind of grown together. And then in the last year or so, I've really started to develop the actual project itself.
That's good. That's interesting. Who influenced you on this game, on the simulation wrestling game?
You can go back probably about 20 years. I first started actually playing Promotion Wars about 20 years ago. That was my first kind of interest into the genre, and then I came across Extreme Warfare 9000, and then kind of followed the EW series up until the first TEW came out. And then I had a bit of a hiatus. I didn't play any of the games for years, up until probably 2013 or so. I got back into it. So that's when I got back into it. And I'm sorry if you can hear that in the background. That's my poet. So if he's swearing or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, that's how far my interest goes, and I play a lot of games that are similar, strategy management type games. So I'm quite big into paradox type games. Big fan of Civilization 2. So it's those kind of games that really kind of capture my interest. So that's where kind of like the influence comes from. And
you've always been a wrestling fan growing up?
Yeah, I have, yeah. Probably my earliest memories was 95 Royal Rumble. And Shawn Michaels, obviously, winning at the end, the British Bulldog, getting us out. That's one of my earliest memories. So I was a big wrestling fan sort of growing up. And then it was probably 2004, 2005 that I dropped out for quite a long time. And then I got back into it by watching, I was watching documentaries on Netflix. And there's a Stone Cold documentary that I watched, and that got me back into it back in 2013. And I just thought, why did I stop watching all this time? And then I've been watching, every week since.
That's awesome. So I just wanted to get a little background there. And will there be any licensed professional wrestlers or any custom wrestlers in the game?
No, not to begin with. It's something that I am kind of looking at in terms of, small, local indie promotions or developers maybe having, their names in the game. The idea is floated, so it's something I am looking at. But yeah, there's no plans for, there's no chance of WWE or AEW or anything like that. But yeah, it's going to be a customized database, and it's going to be set, on a time frame that's going to be conducive to gameplay. So it's going to be set around. I really want to give it away, but it's going to be set around to make sure that you've got 2 big companies at least, going against each other, so that you've got a standard database to sort of go with. But really, what drives the game is going to be the mods that are created behind it. So that's going to be the big driving force behind it. So there's a lot of work going into making the modern experience really good. I've got quite a few mod makers that have already said they're gonna get involved and help out. So that's gonna be really the big selling point, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that would be good push for it. Now, is this your first time developing a game?
Well, on my own, yes. I've worked in the industry before, so not as a software developer, but as a tester. So I'm very sort of well aware of what goes into game development. So it's my first title on my own. So it's quite a big, ambitious solo project. But yeah, it's quite exciting.
Yeah. Now, like, you have no help in creating this game whatsoever. Nobody.
No, I mean, in terms of from the the game code to the artwork, all of that is me. There is some help in terms of data that's being put together, and there's a few people that will help odd bits here or there. If I need an asset here or there or an opinion, there's people helping me with that. But in terms of the actual hands-on work, that's all me.
That's awesome. That's pretty impressive, actually. So, what are some cool features included in the Pro Wrestling Promoter?
So, like I said, the main driving point behind the game is going to be around the mod making aspects. So, one thing that I really wanted to build the game around would be to have a game mode that's completely moddable. So, whether you wanted a game world that was based on, let's say you wanted it based on Earth, and you have, North America, Europe, Australia, etc. But if you wanted, you could delete all of those, and you could have a fantasy game world if you wanted to name the countries and cities as you wanted them, and model the game world to your liking as a mod maker. So that's one of the coolest features I think that's in the game, because it completely changes the dynamic of how wrestlers' popularity will be driven, how you will grow your promotion. So it's really like a nice little cool sandbox type of experience, and I think people will really love it when they see it.
So I can get an idea it's going to be like a GM mode. Speaking of GM mode, how do you feel about that returning to WWE 2K22?
It's an interesting point, because in terms of the WWE games, I never really played the GM mode that much. I never really liked it that much, to be honest with you.
Why?
I mean, I tried it a little bit, but I guess for me, the interest in the kind of GM kind of booking type thing is that you can pick anybody, and for WWE games, or you're kind of stuck in WWE mode. You're booking WWE. You're not booking your own promotion necessarily, and you're kind of stuck with the characters that you're given or that you download. So it's a bit different to managing a promotion and say Pro Wrestling Promoter, where you're going up against WWE or you're going up against another promotion and you're trying to beat them in the ratings. It's a completely different kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of actually booking and just seeing the results come out rather than taking part, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get you.
So, yeah, that's kind of where my thinking comes from, really.
What do you consider to be the best wrestling game right now?
It's a good point. It's definitely not going to be 2K21. But I would probably say the game that I probably have the most fun with is probably TW13 was the last one I had a lot of fun with. PWS is a lot of fun. Promotion-wise, it's still fun on its own as well. They're all great games, really. I can't say that I would have a particular favourite. Even TNM 7, they've all got great attributes to them and different reasons why you would want to play them.
Yeah, I agree. Are you familiar with M. Dickey, who created Wrestling Empire?
Yeah, I used to play not really played many of his 3D games that much, but I followed him very early on in his career when he made like the DOS games. And there was a game he had called, I think it was Federation Booker, and it was like all in 8-bit, and I had a lot of fun on that. I played that one to death. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. I do follow him on Twitter and stuff, but I don't have his games on mobile, so I can't really speak to what that's like.
Absolutely, I understand. Yeah, so like, which current free agent right now in the wrestling industry would you love to have in this game?
Well, a free agent, I would say, Braun Strowman, probably.
Yeah.
Big fan of Braun. I was actually surprised he would let go, but it is what it is. Apparently, he was on lots of money, and we do really about their reasons. But yeah, he's one that I really enjoyed, and I suppose the other one would be Bray Wyatt as well. I'm a big fan of Bray. I got his Fiend hoodie. I got it last Halloween, so that's quite cool. But yeah,
absolutely, yeah. And with an unknown release date, you don't know how much the game will cost, or you do?
Well, that comes down to what the distribution deal is going to be like. I don't know yet in terms of publishing or anything like that. There's a few options open to me for that. Also, with my current day job and obligations, I have to give certain people a heads up first. So if somebody wants to release it, then that might change or dictate. But I do have a rough idea in mind if it is completely solo and if it's on its own. Yeah. So, but yeah, until that's all tied up and finalised, it's not something that I'm obviously going to divulge.
Absolutely, this is a hidden gem in a mastermind as we speak. So I don't want to get into any more further details about the game because it is supposed to be special. It's supposed to be a surprise. It's supposed to be enjoyable for the fans as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really excited by the reception that I've got and the interest, and I'm honored that you've invited me on to talk about it today.
Just want to build some hype around it, you know what I mean? Get people's heads spinning more. Not after not already encaved in such a unrealistic world we're living in right now, so why not go to gaming as a quick escape route?
Yeah, definitely, and it helps me as well. I mean, working on a project on your own, it can be quite lonely, and it's a lot of work. So when there's people interested and they're asking about it, then it does kind of get into my mind, and I'll finish work at the end of the day, and I'm like, okay, I'll click back and do some work on it. And when people are asking, it gives me ideas of what can I reveal next, sort of thing, and what can I work on next. So yeah, it's really good, and it's a real driver for me. Definitely.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you for joining us on the podcast as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you ever so much for having me.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard Corrigan's Cheat Sheet.